HOA broke into my garage, didn't know it was a registered emergency command center. Have you ever wondered what happens when a nosy HOA crosses a line they can't uncross? It was a crisp Saturday morning when I woke to the sound of my security alarm blaring. My heart raced as I bolted to my phone, the app showing a breach in my garage. I live in a quiet Virginia suburb, where the biggest drama is usually whose lawn isn't mowed to HOA standards. But this was different. I grabbed my robe, slipped on boots, and ran outside, only to find Margaret, the HOA president, standing in my garage with a clipboard, her face pale as she fumbled with a flashlight. She wasn't alone. 2 other board members hovered nervously behind her, one clutching a set of master keys. They'd broken in, claiming they were inspecting for violations. What they didn't know: my garage wasn't just a storage space, it was a registered emergency command center for the county's volunteer EMS team. I'd moved into this townhouse community 2 years ago with my partner, Alex, a paramedic who often brought her EMS vehicle home. The garage was our sanctuary, outfitted with radio equipment, medical supplies, and a direct line to the county's emergency dispatch. It wasn't just a hobby. It was a lifeline for our rural area, where response times could mean life or death. The HOA had been a thorn in our side from day one, sending violation notices about Alex's EMS truck parked in the driveway, claiming it was a commercial vehicle despite Virginia law classifying it as an emergency vehicle, exempt from such rules. We'd fought those battles, armed with state statutes and a lawyer friend who'd sent cease and desist letters. But this intrusion, this was a new low. "Margaret, what the hell are you doing in my garage?" I demanded, my voice sharp enough to cut through the morning fog. She stammered, We have the right to inspect for unapproved modifications. The bylaws state." I cut her off, pointing to the radio console and the county-issued emergency placard on the wall. "This is a registered command center. You just broke into a critical county asset. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Her face fell, the clipboard trembling in her hands. The other board members exchanged panicked glances, clearly unaware of the garage's purpose. Margaret, ever the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, tried to recover. "Well, we didn't know. You never informed us properly." Her tone dripped with entitlement, as if I owed her a personal briefing. I could feel my blood boiling. Not only had they violated my privacy, but they'd also endangered a system that served the entire community. I pulled out my phone and called the sheriff's non-emergency line, knowing this needed official documentation. As we waited for the deputy, a neighbor, Mrs. Carter, poked her head out from across the street. She was a retired nurse who'd helped us set up the command center, even donating spare medical supplies. "Everything okay, Sam?" she called, her voice laced with concern. I waved her over, and her eyes widened when she saw Margaret and her cronies in my garage. "They broke in?" she whispered, incredulous. Then, in a twist I didn't see coming, she marched over to Margaret and said, "You know, I told you at the last meeting this was an EMS hub. You didn't listen because you were too busy whining about my flower beds." Mrs. Carter's revelation hit like a bombshell. Margaret had been warned, but her obsession with control had blinded her. The deputy arrived, a no-nonsense woman named Officer Reynolds who knew Alex from EMS calls. She surveyed the scene, her expression hardening as I explained the garage's role and showed her the county registration. Margaret tried to interject, waving her clipboard like a shield. "Officer, we have authority under the HOA bylaws to inspect properties for compliance." Reynolds wasn't having it. "Ma'am, your bylaws don't supersede state law. This is a registered emergency facility. Breaking in without permission is trespassing at minimum." She took statements, photographed the scene, and advised me to file a formal complaint with the county. Margaret's bravado crumbled. She started babbling about misunderstandings and community standards, but the other board members were already inching toward the exit, muttering apologies. I could see the gears turning in their heads. They'd followed Margaret's lead without questioning, and now they were in hot water. Officer Reynolds handed me a card with the case number and said, "You've got a strong case if you want to pursue this. I'd also notify the County Emergency Services Director. They'll want to know their command center was compromised." The fallout was swift and brutal. By Monday, word had spread through the neighborhood, thanks to Mrs. Carter's knack for gossip. At the next HOA meeting, the room was packed with residents, many of whom relied on our EMS setup during last year's tornado scare. Margaret tried to spin the incident as a minor error, but the crowd wasn't buying it. A young couple who'd recently moved in stood up, revealing they were county attorneys who'd been eyeing the HOA's overreach for months. They presented a petition, signed by half the neighborhood, demanding Margaret's removal as president. The twist? They'd uncovered financial discrepancies in the HOA's budget, including unauthorized inspection fees Margaret had been pocketing. The room erupted in gasps and angry murmurs. Margaret's reign collapsed like a house of cards. She resigned that night, tears streaming down her face as she fled the meeting. The board issued a public apology, and the County Emergency Services Director sent a stern letter to the HOA warning that any further interference with the command center would result in legal action. They even installed a new lock on my garage, paid for by the HOA's reserve fund. Alex and I were hailed as local heroes, with neighbors bringing us casseroles and thank you notes for weeks. In the end, the neighborhood learned a hard lesson about power and responsibility. The new HOA president, Mrs. Carter's son, prioritized transparency and community input, even hosting a tour of our command center to educate residents. Margaret moved away a month later, her reputation in tatters. As for me, I keep the garage door locked tight, but I sleep better knowing our community's emergency lifeline is secure and that justice, sometimes, comes with a siren's wail. What do you think? Did Margaret get what she deserved? Or should the HOA have faced harsher consequences? Share your thoughts below.